She made one final phone call, and seconds later, she vanished without a trace. But what she said in that call exposed a secret someone was willing to kill for. Brookvale was the kind of town where nothing ever seemed to happen. The streets were always quiet, especially at night. Streetlights flickered over empty sidewalks, and the only sound after dark was the distant barking of dogs or the occasional passing car. People trusted each other here. Doors were often left unlocked. No one expected danger, but that illusion of safety was about to be shattered. At exactly 11:47 p.m., Emma Carter sat alone in her apartment, staring at her laptop screen. The glow of the screen lit up her face, revealing tired eyes and a worried expression. Empty coffee cups were scattered across her desk. Papers, notes, and printed photos covered every surface around her. She hadn't slept much in the past few days. Something wasn't right. Emma was a journalist, known for chasing stories others ignored. But this time, it felt different. This wasn't just another investigation. The deeper she went, the more dangerous it became. Her eyes moved across the screen again, reading the same line she had typed minutes ago. The truth they don't want you to know. She swallowed hard. Outside her window, the street looked empty. But for a brief moment, she thought she saw something. A shadow moving near the parked cars. Emma froze. She leaned closer to the glass, trying to focus. Nothing. Just your imagination, she whispered to herself. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Her phone buzzed suddenly, making her jump. No caller ID. Her heart started beating faster. She let it ring for a few seconds, unsure whether to answer. Finally, she picked it up. "Hello. Who is this?" she asked, her voice steady but cautious. For a moment, there was only the faint sound of static. Then, the call ended. Emma stared at her phone, her grip tightening around it. "That's not funny," she muttered, though no one was there to hear her. She immediately checked her doors and windows. Everything was locked, or at least, she thought it was. When she reached the front door, she noticed something strange. The lock was slightly loose, as if someone had tried to force it earlier. A chill ran down her spine. That was it. She couldn't ignore this anymore. Emma hurried back to her desk and grabbed her phone. There was only one person she trusted enough to call at this hour. Lily. Her best friend, the one person who always listened. She dialed quickly, pacing back and forth across the room. After 2 rings, Lily answered, her voice sleepy but warm. "Emma, do you know what time it is?" Emma let out a shaky breath. "Yeah, I'm sorry, I needed to talk to you." Lily yawned softly. "You sound stressed. What's going on?" Emma hesitated. She glanced again at the window, half expecting to see that shadow return. "I think I found something big," she said quietly. Lily chuckled a little. "Emma, you always say that when you're working on a story." "No, listen to me," Emma said, more urgently this time. "This isn't normal. I think someone knows what I'm doing." That caught Lily's attention. "What do you mean?" "I got a call just now. No number, no voice. And I think someone was outside my apartment." There was a brief silence on the other end. "Emma, are you sure you're not just tired?" Lily asked gently. "I wish I was," Emma replied. "But there's more." She lowered her voice, almost to a whisper. "His story, it's about Daniel Cross. I think he's connected to something bad. Something that was covered up." Lily didn't respond immediately. Emma continued, her words rushing now. "If anything happens to me, you need to." Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from somewhere inside Emma's apartment. A sharp thud. Emma gasped. "Emma, what was that?" Lily asked, now fully awake. Emma didn't answer right away. Her breathing became heavy. "I think someone's here," she whispered. The line crackled. "Get out of there!" Lily shouted. But before Emma could respond, the call cut off. Silence filled the room, and from that moment on, Emma Carter was never heard from again. The next morning, Brookvale woke up like any other day. The sun rose slowly over quiet streets. People stepped out of their homes with coffee in hand, heading to work, greeting neighbors with familiar smiles. No one knew that something was terribly wrong. At 9:15 a.m., Emma Carter's editor, Mr. Collins, checked his watch for the third time. Emma was never late. In fact, she was usually the first one in the office. He picked up his phone and called her. It rang, and rang, no answer. Strange, he muttered. Meanwhile, across town, Lily sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone. She hadn't slept all night. She had tried calling Emma again and again after the call ended. But every time, it went straight to voicemail. That wasn't like Emma. Not after what she had said. Not after that sound. Lily quickly grabbed her jacket and rushed out of her apartment. Something was wrong. She could feel it. By 11:00 a.m., Lily was standing outside Emma's apartment building, her heart pounding. The building looked completely normal. No police, no crowd, no sign that anything unusual had happened. But that only made it worse. She hurried upstairs and reached Emma's door. For a moment, she hesitated. Then she knocked. "Emma," she called out. No response. She knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. Her hands began to shake as she slowly reached for the doorknob. It turned easily. Unlocked. Lily pushed the door open. "Emma." The apartment was silent, too silent. She stepped inside cautiously, her eyes scanning the room. Everything looked normal. And yet, something felt off. Emma's laptop was still open on the desk. The screen hadn't gone to sleep. A document was visible. Lily moved closer. The title made her stomach drop. "The Truth They Don't Want You to Know." Below it was a half-written article. Sentences cut off mid-thought. Paragraphs unfinished. It looked like Emma had been writing, and suddenly stopped. "Emma." Lily called again, her voice trembling. She walked further inside. On the table were empty coffee cups and scattered papers. Some had names written on them. Others had dates and strange notes. Lily noticed something else. Emma's phone was missing. Her bag was gone too. But her keys were still on the table. That didn't make sense. If Emma had left, why wouldn't she take her keys? A cold wave of fear washed over Lily. She pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Within minutes, police arrived at the scene. Officers carefully searched the apartment, taking photos and collecting evidence. But the more they looked, the stranger it seemed. There were no signs of forced entry. No broken furniture. No blood. No struggle. It was as if Emma had simply stood up and walked out. Detective Mark Reyes arrived shortly after. He was calm, observant, and experienced. The kind of detective who noticed details others missed. He stepped into the apartment, his sharp eyes scanning every corner. "What do we have?" he asked. "Missing person." One officer replied. "No signs of a struggle." Door was unlocked. Reyes nodded slowly. He walked over to the desk and looked at the laptop screen. He read the title silently. Then he scrolled through the document. His expression changed. "This wasn't just any story," he said. "What do you mean?" Lily asked, her voice shaky. Reyes turned to her. "What was Emma working on?" Lily hesitated for a second. She said it was something big." She replied. "Something dangerous." Reyes looked around the room again. His eyes stopped at the scattered notes. Names, dates, connections. This wasn't random. This was an investigation. And Emma had gotten too close to something. Reyes turned back to Lily. "When was the last time you spoke to her?" Lily swallowed hard. "Last night," she said. At 11:47 p.m., Reyes raised an eyebrow. "What did she say?" Lily took a deep breath. "She said, if anything happens to her." Her voice broke. Reyes didn't need to hear the rest. He already knew. This wasn't a simple disappearance. This was something bigger. Something darker. And whatever Emma Carter had discovered, someone clearly didn't want it to come out. Detective Mark Reyes stood silently in Emma Carter's apartment, studying the scattered papers on her desk. There was a pattern here. He could feel it. Emma hadn't just been writing an article. She had been building a case. Reyes carefully picked up one of the documents. It was a printed photograph of a man stepping out of a luxury car, well-dressed, confident. At the bottom, Emma had written a name in bold ink. Daniel Cross. Reyes frowned. He recognized the name instantly. Daniel Cross was one of Brookvale's most powerful businessmen. He owned multiple properties, funded local events, and had strong connections with important people in town. To the public, he was respected, untouchable. But Emma clearly didn't see him that way. "Run everything we have on him," Reyes told one of the officers. Within hours, more of Emma's work was collected and brought to the station. Her apartment had been full of hidden details. Notes tucked into books, files saved on her laptop, even voice recordings stored on a small device found in a drawer. Reyes sat in the interrogation room, now turned into a temporary evidence space, as he reviewed everything piece by piece. Then he found something that made him stop, a voice recording labeled 11:12 p.m. same day. That was just 35 minutes before Emma's last phone call. Reyes pressed play. At first, there was only the sound of light footsteps and distant traffic. Then Emma's voice. Low. "Careful. I know what happened in 2018, she said. There was a pause. Then a man's voice responded, cold, controlled. "You shouldn't be digging into things you don't understand." Reyes leaned closer. Emma spoke again, her voice firmer this time. "A girl disappeared. No investigation. No headlines. Just silence, and you were there that night." Silence filled the recording for a few seconds. Then the man replied, "You're making a mistake." Emma didn't back down. "No," she said. "You are." The recording suddenly ended. Reyes slowly lowered the device. His expression had changed. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was direct confrontation. Emma had spoken to someone dangerous. "Trace that 2018 case," Reyes ordered immediately. "What girl?" an officer asked. "That's what we're going to find out." High hours passed as the team searched old records. Finally, they found it. A missing person report, filed then quickly closed. The name was Sarah Mitchell, age 19. No body was ever found. No suspects were charged. And strangely, the case had been marked as resolved, without explanation. Reyes felt a chill run through him. This wasn't normal. He flipped through the file again and again. Then he noticed something else. A list of witnesses. Most names meant nothing. But one stood out. Daniel Cross. Reyes leaned back in his chair. Now it was starting to make sense. Emma had connected the dots. She had found a case that was buried, and linked it to a powerful man. But that raised a bigger question. If Daniel Cross was involved, why wasn't he stopped before? Reyes stood up. "Bring him in," he said firmly. Later that evening, Daniel Cross sat calmly across from Reyes in the interrogation room. He looked relaxed. Almost too relaxed. "Detective," Daniel said with a polite smile. "I hear you've been asking about me." Reyes didn't smile back. "You knew Sarah Mitchell," he said. Daniel shrugged lightly. "I've met a lot of people." "You were listed as a witness in her disappearance." "And I cooperated fully," Daniel replied smoothly. "You can check the records." Reyes leaned forward slightly. "And Emma Carter?" he asked. For the first time, Daniel paused. Just for a second. Then he smiled again. "I've heard the name." "Journalist, right?" Reyes watched him carefully. "She went missing last night." Daniel's expression didn't change. "That's unfortunate," he said. Too calm. Too perfect. Reyes knew that look. This man was hiding something. But there was no proof. Not yet. As Daniel left the station, Reyes stood by the window, watching him walk away. Everything pointed toward him. But something didn't feel complete. Emma had said something important during her last call. Something Reyes couldn't ignore. "I think someone knows what I'm doing." Someone. Not just Daniel. Reyes turned back to the evidence board. Photos, names, dates, connections. This wasn't one man's secret, it was bigger than that. And somewhere in all of this was the truth Emma died trying to uncover. Days passed, but there was still no sign of Emma Carter. Brookvale no longer felt like the quiet, Safe town it once was. People locked their doors earlier. Conversations grew quieter. Rumors spread quickly. Everyone was asking the same question. What happened to Emma? Detective Mark Rise was under pressure. The case had gained attention, and people wanted answers. But despite all the evidence collected, there was still nothing solid. No body, no clear timeline, no direct proof. Daniel Cross remained free. And that didn't sit right with Reyes. Meanwhile, Lily was barely holding herself together. She hadn't slept properly in days. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped. Every unknown number made her anxious. Emma's last words kept repeating in her mind. If anything happens to me. Lily tried to push the thought away, but she couldn't. Something terrible had happened. She could feel it. Late one evening, as rain softly tapped against her window, Lily sat alone in her apartment, staring blankly at her phone. The room was dimly lit. The silence felt heavy. Then suddenly, her phone rang. Lily froze. She slowly looked down at the screen. Her breath caught in her throat. Emma calling. Her hands began to shake instantly. "No, this can't be," she whispered. For a moment, she didn't move. Then the phone rang again, and again. Finally, with trembling fingers, she answered. Hello, silence. A faint crackling sound filled the line. Lily said, her voice breaking. "Emma, is that you?" For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then a weak, shaky voice came through. "Lily?" Lily gasped.
"Emma!"
"Oh, my God. Where are you? Are you okay?" Emma's breathing was uneven, like she was struggling. "I don't have much time," she whispered. "Who did this to you?" Lily asked quickly. "Tell me where you are." "They're watching me," Emma said. Lily's eyes filled with fear. "Who is they?" "Emma, please." There was a pause. Then Emma spoke again, more urgently this time. "I shouldn't have trusted him." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? Who?" "Emma, it wasn't just Daniel," Emma continued. "There's someone else, someone close." Lily's grip on the phone tightened. "Emma, you're scaring me. Just tell me where you are." In the background, a sudden noise echoed. A door slamming. Emma gasped sharply. "They're here," she whispered. "Emma, run!" Lily shouted, panic rising in her voice. There was the sound of hurried footsteps. Then something crashed loudly. "Emma!" Lily screamed. For a brief second, Emma spoke again, her voice filled with fear. "I'm sorry, I didn't." The line went dead. Lily stared at her phone in complete shock. Her body felt frozen. Then suddenly, she jumped into action. She grabbed her keys and rushed out, dialing Detective Rise as she ran. "He called me. Emma called me," she said breathlessly as soon as he answered. "Slow down," Reyes said. "What happened?"
She's alive.
"I just spoke to her. She said someone's watching her. She's in danger." Reyes was already moving. "Stay where you are. We're tracing the call." Within minutes, the police tracked the location of the call. It came from a remote area just outside Brookvale, an empty stretch of road surrounded by trees. Reyes and his team arrived quickly, flashing lights cutting through the darkness. They searched the area thoroughly. Flashlights scanned every inch of the ground. But there was nothing. No car, no footprints, no sign that anyone had been there. It was as if the call had come from nowhere. Reyes stood in the middle of the empty road, his mind racing. Something wasn't right. Emma had sounded real, terrified, alive, but this place, it was a dead end. He turned to one of his officers. "Check for nearby cameras. Anything that could have picked up movement." The officer nodded and rushed off. Reyes looked out into the darkness. Emma's words echoed in his head. It wasn't just Daniel. Someone else was involved. Someone close. Back at her apartment, Lily sat quietly, staring at her phone again. Her face looked pale, but her expression had changed. The fear was still there. But now, there was something else, something harder to notice, something hidden. A small, almost invisible shift. As if she knew more than she was saying. And somewhere out there, Emma was still fighting to survive. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. Weeks passed, and the case of Emma Carter slowly began to fade from the headlines. In Brookvale, life tried to return to normal, but something had changed. People were more cautious, more suspicious. The feeling of safety was gone. For Detective Mark Reyes, however, the case was far from over. He couldn't let it go. Something about it didn't sit right. Emma's disappearance, the second phone call, Daniel Cross, and most of all, her final words. I shouldn't have trusted him. Reyes stood in front of the evidence board in his office, staring at the web of connections. Photos of Emma, Daniel Cross, old case files, phone records, and one more photo. Lily. Reyes narrowed his eyes. At first, she had seemed like just a worried friend, cooperative, emotional. But now, something felt off. He picked up her file again. This time, he looked deeper. Financial records, call history, background connections, and then, he found it. A series of bank transfers, large amounts of money, sent from an account linked to Daniel Cross to Lily. Rey's expression hardened. No, he muttered. He quickly pulled up call records. Multiple late-night calls between Lily and Daniel. Going back months. This wasn't recent. This had been going on for a long time. Reyes stepped back slowly. The pieces finally came together. Emma hadn't been betrayed by a stranger. She had been betrayed by someone she trusted the most. Later that day, Lily sat across from Reyes in the interrogation room. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. Her eyes avoided his. She looked nervous. Lily, Reyes began calmly, we found something interesting. She didn't respond. Money transfers. Calls. A connection between you and Daniel Cross. Lily's breathing became uneven. I can explain. She started. Then explain, Reyes said firmly. Silence filled the room. Tears began to form in Lily's eyes. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she whispered. Reyes didn't interrupt. He let her speak. At first, it was just information, she said. Emma trusted me. She told me everything about her investigations. Daniel, he paid me to pass it along. Reyes clenched his jaw. And Emma, he asked quietly. Lily's voice broke. She got too close, she said. She figured out something about 2018's about that girl. Sarah Mitchell. Reyes said. Lily nodded slowly. She was going to expose everything. Daniel panicked. Reyes leaned forward slightly. What happened the night she disappeared? Lily closed her eyes. I went to her apartment, she said. I just wanted to calm her down, to make her stop. Her voice shook as she continued. But she wouldn't listen. She said she knew about me, about everything. She was going to the police. A tear rolled down her cheek. We started arguing. She tried to call someone. I grabbed her arm. Lily's breathing became heavier. I didn't push her hard, I swear. But she lost her balance. Reyes stayed silent. She fell. Lily whispered, hit her head on the table. The room went still. I tried to wake her up. Lily continued, but she wasn't moving. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. I got scared. Reyes already knew what came next. I called Daniel. Lily said. He came over, and he took care of everything. The room felt colder. Reyes leaned back slowly. Where is she? He asked. Lily shook her head weakly. I don't know, she said. He never told me. Days later, Daniel Cross was arrested. The evidence Emma had gathered, combined with Lily's confession, was enough to bring him down. But even after a full investigation, Emma's body was never found. Just when the case seemed closed, one final twist changed everything. At the police station, an officer rushed into Reyes' office. Detective, you need to see this. Reyes looked up. What is it? An email. The officer said. Scheduled delivery. It was sent this morning. From who? The officer hesitated. Emma Carter. Reyes quickly opened the email. Inside was a detailed file. Documents, audio recordings, photos. Everything Emma had discovered. More than enough to expose Daniel completely. At the bottom of the email was a single message. If you're reading this, I didn't make it. But the truth should. Reyes stared at the screen in silence. Emma had known. She had prepared for this, even in the face of danger. She made sure her story would be told. The truth came out. Justice was served. But one mystery remained unsolved. No one ever found Emma Carter. And no one ever truly knew what happened in those final moments after that last phone call.